Bit of music. At the start of the weekend. Do we stand up and salute?
Are you a Star Wars fan then, Indy?
I wonder.
Do you not recognise it?
Indiana Jones, isn't it?
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones. Is it? Oh, there you go.
Come on, Deborah.
I'm not a film buff.
You can see that.
That was a theme tune I should have played for Jeff Bates when he did the Plant Hunters talk. That was Indiana Jones.
Yes.
I'll have to save that one for a future event. Right, if you can all hear me, just wave your right hand. Fantastic, brilliant. Okay, good. Right, so I'm going to mute you all as usual. But you can unmute yourselves if you want to. Now, just be careful if you do unmute yourselves. Don't start talking to the person next to you. Even if you try to whisper to the person next to you, we can still hear you. In our last meeting on Tuesday, it sounded like somebody was slowly strangling a cat in the background. I'm not sure what the noise was, but there was a bit of interference. So yeah, and don't forget, if your noise does come through, we know who it is because a big yellow box appears above your head. And the worst culprits are the ones who are in couples because they talk to the person next to them, or if they've got an assistant in the house that brings them a cup of tea, they'll walk in and say, I've got your cup of coffee. So yeah, you can unmute yourselves for the time being, obviously, if you want to, while I'm doing the introduction. But then when I hand over, I will mute everybody. So, right. Now, do you remember I told you about that new summer flowering camellia that you can all go for? Well, I went back online and checked it today, and they seem to have all sold out. So all our sponsoring clubs who get their 50% seeds and 15% plant discount, looks like they've been buying them all. So that's fantastic. But I just thought I'd show you a photo of why I did recommend those summer flowering ones. That's one of my neighbours. That's one of my neighbours' camellias. It looks terrible, doesn't it? It's all horrible, singed and brown, but I know she won't mind because, well, she's on holiday, so she won't know. But yeah, so those summer flowering camellias should be quite useful. Right, we're all here today for a talk from Margaret George on the history of herbs. And today's talk has been sponsored by the Stone and Chrysanthemum Daily Society. So thank you very much to them. Now, as usual, I like to warm you up with a quiz question. But before I do that, this was the quiz question from Tuesday, but I forgot to show you what the actual flower looks like. And that's what it looks like in reality. So we did talk about it, but I just forgot to show it to you. And when we did the voting, I said people can vote yes or no. So most people did, but then some people voted other, and we were having a bit of a giggle about that. But actually, the 3 people who voted other were spot on, because one of them said you should let it flower and then decide whether to whip it out or not. So, so actually, those 3 people were spot on. Right, today's quiz question. Now, for those who were here for Victoria's talk, she was talking about this particular fertilizer, Miracle-Gro All-Purpose. Continuous release. So it's a continuous release plant food. So today's quiz question, can you explain the difference between these two? It's a subtle difference, but an important difference. So we're going to have the answers at the end as usual, but if you can see on these bottles, it's the same manufacturer, they look very similar, but one says continuous release, just as Victoria was telling us to use, and the other one says controlled release. So have a think about that, and we'll have the answers at the end. This is the acidic version, by the way, so if you've got rhododendrons, camellias, all those kinds of things, you can get the same equivalent types of feeds, continuous and controlled. Now, unfortunately, because of the weather, we've had to postpone the plant swap because we've got rain the whole of the weekend. And also somebody reminded me that I had a spelling mistake on my email that I sent out to our club. So you know how you get predictive text? So I'd written plant swap. So we're having a plant swap in the rear car park at the church, but it got rid of the L on plant and put an S at the end. So it said, in the rear car park, we're having a pant swap. So I'm glad the vicar didn't read it. Right, another one of our sponsoring clubs have come on board from West Shores Nursery. So they're going to be doing a talk for us on grasses. So it might be nice for you to have a look at this particular website. They do specialise in ornamental grasses, autumn flowering perennials and scented pelargoniums. So that's West Shore Nursery. So have a look at the website. They will be doing a talk for us for tender shoots soon. A couple of plant fairs. There's one at Dorothy Clive on Friday and Saturday, 21st to 22nd of May. Make sure you book your tickets in advance. I've booked mine for Friday. And there's another one at Road Hall on Monday, the 31st of May. Again, you have to pre-book. Hook's Green Herbs, for those who know who they are, they have won lots of RHS gold medals. They've also been at the Chelsea Flower Show. They've got a couple of open days on Saturday and Sunday, the 22nd and 23rd of May. Now, also, people ask me how I sort of pick up my tips, and I do listen to a lot of gardening podcasts, and I know quite a lot of people like to listen to Gardener's Question Time, but there's lots of others that are out there, and I will show you some of the apps in one of our future meetings. But I thought I'd just show you how I actually listen to my podcast, because I used to take a speaker out into the garden when I was weeding, but that can disturb the neighbors. So now I use these tiny little Bluetooth earbuds. You've probably seen them, and they can just fit in your ear like that, and they're absolutely ideal, really, really good. So I wear them continuously, whether I'm weeding, whether I'm cooking, washing dishes. I've even got a waterproof set for when I'm in the shower, so I can still listen to gardening podcasts. So I'm going to show you the one that I've got. It's quite cheap, £24 from Amazon. And the really useful thing with this particular one is that you only have to have one in one ear. You don't have to have them both in. So when you're weeding in the garden, you can still hear what is going on around you while still listening to a podcast. And that's how I pick up a lot of my gardening tips. So I just thought I'd share that with you. That's £24, a bit of a bargain. Right, I'm now going to introduce Margaret. Margaret's been involved with Staffordshire Heritage Group for quite some time. She does talks on various topics, many on history, including Chartley Castle, canal and rail development, also tracing your ancestors, an interesting one on essential oils and their uses, also a couple of interesting ones on magic, myths and mysteries of Staffordshire, and another one called The Butcher, the Baker and the Adulterer, which sounds very interesting. Right, so can I ask you all to unmute yourselves, please? And can you all give Margaret a lovely round of applause?
Thank you.
So explain the difference between these two. So continuous release and controlled release. So is anybody going to be brave?
Controlled release depending on the weather and the circumstances, heat, water, etc.
Yeah. So the continuous release just releases nutrients continuously, almost regardless of the weather. So some plants don't want fertilizer in winter. So if you've got the pellets and you've planted them in there, they don't actually want all those nutrients. So the controlled release actually works not only just on water, but also on heat. So obviously as the summer gets warmer, hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll want more fertilizer released. So depending on what you're trying to grow, in theory, the controlled release should be better than the continuous release. And it just makes life easier, so you don't have to continuously trying to fertilize all your plants. So yeah, so that was the difference. Well done, Helen. Seeing as though you're the chair of Stone and Chrysanthemum Daily.
Well, yes, I've been using it for a long time.
Right, yeah, folks. So I'll open up the breakout rooms in a moment. But for those who want to leave now, I'll say goodbye and hope to see you.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, Cindy.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.